You've arrived. The past welcomes you with open arms. Tonight, we drift into the Soviet Union, a world of silent fears, long lines for bread, and lives lived beneath the watchful eyes of power. Before we begin, if these stories help you rest, a like or subscribe would mean a lot. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from. It's always surreal to see people from the US, Russia, or Brazil sharing the same moment across time zones. Now, get comfortable, fix your pillows, pull your blanket close, let the noise of today fade. Your eyes open not to glowing screens, but to the dim glow of a single light bulb in a cramped apartment, the rattle of a tram outside, and the quiet murmur of neighbors careful with their words.
The year is 1962. The place? A grey apartment block in Moscow, the beating heart of the Soviet Union. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not the silence of nature, but a heavy concrete silence. The walls are thick, the windows drafty, and outside you can almost feel the cold air pressing against the glass. It is winter, though the sun has not yet risen. You roll over on a hard mattress beneath scratchy blankets. This is your new life, and you are just beginning to understand it. The room is small. A single bulb hangs from the ceiling, and the wallpaper peels at the corners. Against the wall is a wardrobe, sturdy but plain, holding just a handful of clothes. A wool coat, a few shirts, a pair of trousers, and one pair of shoes, polished but worn. People here do not own much. They do not expect to. From the kitchen comes the sound of movement, the clinking of enamel cups, the low whistle of a kettle heating on the stove. Families in the Soviet Union live close together, often 3 generations in one flat. Privacy is rare. You might share a room with your siblings, your parents, or even another family entirely. As you walk into the kitchen, you see it is small, crowded with pots, pans, and jars. On the table sits a loaf of black bread and a small plate of butter, carefully rationed. Tea is poured into glasses, not mugs, and sugar is precious. 1 cube is stirred slowly to make it last. This is not a place of plenty. Food comes from ration lines, state stores, or occasional markets. To buy meat, eggs, or fruit, you need luck and patience. People queue for hours, never knowing what will be left when their turn arrives. Yet in the kitchen, with tea steaming and bread sliced, there is comfort. Families learn to make do. You step outside. The stairwell smells faintly of coal dust and damp clothes. On the wall, slogans are painted, "Glory to the workers," and "Forward to communism." The state speaks everywhere, reminding you of what you're meant to believe. Outside, the air is sharp and freezing. Snow crunches underfoot. The world feels grey sky, grey buildings, grey coats. But the streets are busy. Men in thick ushankas hurry to factories, women carry bags to markets, and children pull sleds along the icy pavement. The Soviet Union is not a single city, not a single world. It is vast, stretching across 11 time zones, from the Baltic Sea to the Pacific Ocean. It holds farmers in the fields of Ukraine, herders on the Kazakh steppe, fishermen on the Siberian rivers. Yet here, in Moscow, life is centered around the party, the Communist Party, whose word shapes every detail of daily existence. You walk toward the factory where you will work. The streets are lined with trams, packed tightly with passengers in heavy coats. The buildings around you rise tall and imposing, Stalinist towers with their rigid, proud style. Posters cover the walls, smiling workers, proud soldiers, rockets soaring into space. The future belongs to us. And yet, as you walk, you feel something deeper beneath the slogans, a quiet tension. People speak in low voices, careful not to say too much. Neighbours are friendly but cautious. Jokes are whispered, never shouted. Because here, words can be dangerous. The state listens and loyalty is everything. At the factory, the day begins with a meeting. The foreman reminds workers of their quota. Machines must be produced. Deadlines met. The Soviet system is built on production. Coal, steel, tractors, tanks, all counted and measured. The work is hard, the hours long. Machines break, shortages slow progress. But targets must still be met. By midday, the canteen serves cabbage soup, boiled potatoes, and perhaps a small piece of meat. It is filling, but plain. Conversation at the tables drifts between family troubles, rumours of shortages, and pride in the nation's achievements. Everyone has heard of Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space. His smile shines from posters, proof that the Soviet Union is powerful, modern, unstoppable. When evening falls, you return home. Families gather around the radio listening to state news, speeches about progress, warnings about enemies, and promises of a bright communist future. Television exists, but not everyone has it. Those who do might watch a concert, a film, or a carefully approved news broadcast. Children play in the stairwell, kicking a ball, or pretending to be cosmonauts flying to the stars. Their laughter echoes against the concrete. In the quiet of the night, the apartment grows cold. You hear the wind against the window, the rattle of pipes in the walls. Tomorrow will be much the same. Work, queues, shortages, and slogans. Yet there is also music, laughter, and love. People still celebrate birthdays, still share toasts, still dream of a better life for their children. This is the Soviet Union, a world of pride and fear, of shortages and strength, of grey streets and hidden warmth. The day has started anew, and now we look closer, not at the workers in the factory nor the grey queues in the markets, but at the smallest faces in the Soviet Union, the children. Perhaps even you, if you imagine yourself not as an adult, but as a boy or girl growing up here in the 1960s. The first thing you notice is that childhood feels both ordinary and very different from what you may know. The toys are simple, wooden blocks, tin soldiers, dolls stitched by hand. A ball made from rags can be enough for a game in the courtyard. Entertainment does not come from bright stores or flashing screens. It comes from imagination and from the group of children who gather outside every afternoon. The morning begins in a small bedroom where you share a bed with your brother or sister. The walls are bare, except perhaps for a portrait of Lenin or a picture of a Soviet hero like Yuri Gagarin. These figures are everywhere, watching over you, reminding you of the ideals you're expected to grow into. Breakfast is modest, a slice of black bread, a boiled egg if the family is lucky, and always tea. Sometimes, for children, there is kasha, porridge, thick and heavy, filling the stomach before school. Sweet treats are rare. A candy or an orange is treasured like gold, remembered for weeks after it is eaten. School begins early. You walk through snow or mud, depending on the season, wrapped tightly in your coat, boots clumsy and heavy. The building is large, plain, painted in pale colours. Inside, the air smells of chalk and paper, and the halls echo with the sound of footsteps. Classrooms are strict, but not unkind. Desks line the room in neat rows, and at the front hangs a portrait of Lenin or Marx, perhaps both. The teacher is respected, sometimes feared, but always obeyed. Lessons begin with a salute to the flag or a recitation of loyalty to the Soviet motherland. These subjects are broad as mathematics, literature, history, science, but every lesson carries a tone of ideology. History, for instance, is not simply about kings and battles. It is about the struggle of the working class, about the triumph of socialism, about the inevitable march toward communism. Stories of past suffering, of peasants, of workers, are told as lessons in sacrifice and endurance. Children read Pushkin, Tolstoy, and later Gorky. They learn about heroes who gave their lives for the people, and they are told again and again that their duty is not only to themselves but to the nation. Playtime still exists. During breaks, children run into the yard, play soccer or slide on ice patches in winter. They laugh, shout, and chase each other, just as children do anywhere. Yet even here, games can carry an echo of politics. One child pretends to be a brave Red Army soldier, while another plays the role of a Western spy to be caught. Uniforms are simple. White shirts, dark skirts or trousers, red pioneer scarves around the neck. The scarf is more than decoration. It marks you as a member of the Young Pioneers, the Soviet youth organization. Almost all children join. It is a step in the path of loyalty, leading from childhood to adulthood, from innocence to service. The pioneer meetings are held after school. Children gather to sing songs, to hear speeches about duty, to march and salute. There are camping trips, bonfires, and songs sung beneath the stars, moments that feel free, joyous, full of friendship. But even there, the ideals are never far away. The pioneer oath binds you to the cause of communism, to loyalty to the party, to love for the Soviet homeland. Back at home, the apartment block feels alive with the sound of families. Children's voices echo in stairwells. Neighbours borrow sugar or flour from each other. Mothers trade recipes. Fathers exchange news. Grandparents tell stories of the war. Privacy is scarce, but community is strong. Food, again, is central. Dinner might be borscht, steaming with cabbage and beets, served with sour cream if available. Or perhaps pelmeni, dumplings boiled and eaten quickly before they grow cold. Sometimes fish, sometimes potatoes, always bread. And always tea to finish. Alcohol is present too, though more for adults. Vodka, sharp and burning, used for toasts at family gatherings. Evenings bring a different rhythm. Families crowd around the radio or the television, if they have one. The programming is limited but carefully chosen. News of the party's achievements, speeches from leaders, patriotic films, sometimes a concert or a ballet. For children there are cartoons, simple but beloved, showing animals, folk tales, or cheerful workers building the future. Books remain a constant companion. Every home has a shelf, sometimes just a few volumes, sometimes many, filled with classics of Russian literature, Marxist works, and children's stories. Reading is not just pastime, but necessity, a doorway into worlds both real and imagined. Celebrations punctuate the year. On New Year's Eve, families decorate a fir tree, exchange small gifts, and wait for Dead Moros, Grandfather Frost, to bring treats. On May Day, parades fill the streets with banners and music, workers marching proudly beneath red flags. Victory Day, on May 9th, honours the sacrifices of the Great Patriotic War with fireworks and solemn remembrance. Birthdays are simple but joyful. A cake, if possible, homemade and sweet. Friends gathered around a table, singing songs, laughing, exchanging small gifts like books, scarves, or toys. The value lies not in the object, but in the togetherness. Life for children is not free from shadow. They grow up hearing whispers about neighbours who disappeared, about families marked as enemies of the people. They sense the caution in adult conversations, the silences when certain topics arise. Yet to a child, much of this remains a background hum, something felt, but not fully understood. Instead, they focus on their games, their studies, their dreams. Some dream of becoming cosmonauts, inspired by Gagarin's shining smile. Others wish to be engineers, teachers, doctors. All are told that their future is not their own alone, but tied to the destiny of the Soviet Union itself. As night falls, the child lies in bed again, beneath the same scratchy blanket, listening to the hum of pipes in the wall, the muffled voices of neighbours through the floor. Outside, snow drifts down silently, covering the grey streets in a soft white glow. This is childhood in the Soviet Union, strict but warm, simple but shared, shaped always by the presence of the state, yet carried along by laughter, imagination and dreams of tomorrow. Another day begins in the Soviet Union. This time, instead of following children to school, we follow the adults into the world of work, duty and survival. Because in this society, work is not simply a way to earn money, it is life itself. It is identity, purpose and obligation. The morning air is cold. Workers pour out of their apartment blocks, boots clattering on icy steps, coats wrapped tightly against the wind. Factories rise like iron temples across the horizon, smokestacks stretching toward the grey sky. The air tastes of coal and steel dust. You feel it in your lungs before you even arrive at the gates. Factories are everywhere. Moscow, Leningrad, Magnitogorsk, Novosibirsk. Each city has its own beating heart of industry. Steel mills glow red-hot through the night. Textile plants hum with machines spinning thread and weaving fabric. Workers assemble tractors, tanks, radios, televisions. The rhythm of Soviet life is the rhythm of production, measured not in hours but in quotas, in tons of coal, in meters of cloth, in numbers of shoes. You enter through a wide gate, joining hundreds of others. Some greet each other with tired smiles, others remain silent, their eyes heavy from lack of sleep. Once inside, the roar of machines swallows everything. Sparks fly, metal clangs, steam hisses from pipes. The noise is overwhelming, but after years, workers hardly notice. The day begins with a short meeting. The foreman announces the quota. So many machines to finish, so many tons of steel to pour, so many deadlines to meet. The numbers are high, sometimes impossibly so, but no one dares complain. Meeting the quota is more than duty. It is survival. Failing means punishment, shame, or worse. Suspicion of sabotage, even treason. Work is hard, physical, exhausting. Men lift heavy materials, women work assembly lines, hands moving quickly, endlessly through long shifts. Breaks are short, meals in the factory canteen simple, cabbage soup, potatoes, bread. Conversation is cautious. People complain about shortages, about broken machines, about the cold. But no one complains too loudly. Not all work takes place in factories. Outside the cities, life is shaped by the kolkhoz, the collective farm. Here fields stretch far across the steppe, and peasants labour from dawn until dusk. The land belongs not to them, but to the state. Crops are planned, quotas set, deliveries demanded. Grain, milk, meat, all flow toward the cities first, leaving little behind for those who produce it. Life on the collective farm is harsh. Horses pull ploughs across frozen ground, tractors break down often, and hands blister from endless labour. In the summer, the sun beats down unrelenting. In the winter, the fields freeze, barren and white. Families live in simple houses, heating with stoves, storing potatoes and cabbage in root cellars to survive the long months of cold. And yet, even here, community matters. Neighbours share tools, food and gossip. Weddings bring the village together, with music, dancing and vodka flowing late into the night. Children run barefoot in the fields, chasing each other between haystacks, laughing despite the hardships. Work is not only physical but ideological. Every worker, whether in the city or the countryside, is reminded daily of their role in building communism. Posters cover the factory walls. Work hard for the motherland. Every bolt and nail for victory. The plan must be fulfilled. At meetings, speeches echo with phrases about sacrifice, progress, the bright future ahead. But beneath the slogans, reality often bites. Machines break down, supplies run out, production lags behind. Workers improvise, patching tools with scraps, inventing new tricks just to keep the lines moving. At the end of the month, reports are written, numbers adjusted, targets declared fulfilled, even when they were not. Truth bends beneath the weight of expectation. For women, life is doubly demanding. They work full shifts in factories or fields, then return home to cook, clean, wash clothes, and care for children. Soviet propaganda praises the hero mother and the woman worker, showing smiling women at machines, strong and proud. But behind the posters lies exhaustion, the quiet burden of endless labour, both outside and inside the home. Despite the hardships, moments of pride exist. When a worker is praised at a meeting, when a brigade is honoured for exceeding its quota, when a medal is pinned to the chest of a factory hero, there is real joy. Achievements are celebrated even if they come at great cost. And then there is science, exploration, and space. The Soviet Union prizes knowledge as much as production. Scientists labour in laboratories, engineers in design bureaus, cosmonauts train in secret facilities. When Yuri Gagarin orbited the Earth in 1961, every worker in every factory felt pride swell in their chest. The Soviet worker had reached the stars. Still, life remains unequal. Party officials, directors, and managers live better. They have access to special stores where meat, fruit, and fine clothes are available without the endless queues. Their apartments are larger, their lives more comfortable. Ordinary workers know this, whisper about it, resent it quietly. But resentment is dangerous. Evenings after work are weary but not empty. Families gather around the dinner table, sharing what little they have. Men smoke cigarettes, women mend clothes, children do homework under dim light. On good nights, neighbours gather, drinking tea or vodka, telling stories, singing songs. The human spirit finds warmth even in the coldest places. Weekends bring small pleasures, a trip to the park, a visit to the cinema, a day at the dacha, a small country house where vegetables are grown, fruit trees planted, and families escape the grey city air. These gardens provide not only food, but sanity, a chance to breathe, to be away from the endless weight of the factory walls. And always, in the background, the party watches. Reports are written about workers' behaviour, about attendance at meetings, about loyalty to the cause. A careless joke, a critical word, a refusal to join in, all can bring suspicion. People learn to stay silent, to nod, to agree. Survival requires not only strength of body but caution of tongue. Yet the Soviet worker continues, day after day, year after year. Through cold winters and long summers, through shortages and slogans, through exhaustion and pride. The rhythm of their life is steady, harsh, and unrelenting. And through it all they carry a quiet hope that their children perhaps will live better, eat better, dream bigger. This is the life of the worker in the Soviet Union. Hard, disciplined, burdened, but also filled with resilience, camaraderie, and moments of pride. The work week has ended. The machines in the factory are quiet for a day. The collective fields rest beneath the sky, and the endless rhythm of quotas pauses, if only briefly. Now we see another side of Soviet life, how people searched for joy, relaxation, and culture in a system that controlled so much. Leisure is not a luxury here. It is carefully guided, organised, and watched. But even within those boundaries, people find ways to enjoy themselves, to laugh, to sing, to live beyond the grey walls of work and duty. On a Saturday evening, the streets near the local cinema come alive. A line forms at the ticket window, people wrapped in scarves, their breath rising in white clouds against the cold air. Inside, the building is plain, painted in dull colours, but the screen glows like magic. Cinema is a powerful escape. Films show not only Soviet heroes, workers, soldiers, pioneers, but also comedies, romances, and adaptations of great novels. Children laugh at cheerful cartoons while adults cry quietly during dramas about war or hardship. Foreign films are rare, carefully chosen, often from other socialist countries, but when they appear they create wonder, a glimpse into worlds unknown. The cinema is more than entertainment. It is a gathering place, a shared experience. Friends discuss the film afterward, repeating lines, quoting favourite scenes. For a few hours the heaviness of life outside is forgotten. For those in the cities, culture rises to even higher forms. Moscow and Leningrad are filled with theatres, concert halls and ballet stages. The Bolshoi and Mariinsky theatres stand as proud symbols of Soviet artistry. To sit in the red velvet seats beneath chandeliers, watching dancers leap gracefully across the stage, is to be reminded that beauty still exists, even in difficult times. Music fills the hall, Tchaikovsky, Shostakovich, Prokofiev, carried by orchestras that play with power and passion. Tickets are not always easy to find, but when they are, people treasure them. A night at the theatre is a memory to carry for weeks, a story to tell again and again. Beyond the city, another joy waits, the dacha. These small country houses, often simple wooden cabins, give families a chance to escape the crowded apartments and polluted air. In summer, they come alive. Families plant gardens, grow tomatoes, cucumbers, potatoes and berries. They gather mushrooms in the forest, pick apples from trees, fish in nearby rivers. The dacha is both survival and leisure. The vegetables supplement what is missing from state stores, and the time outdoors gives peace of mind. Children race barefoot through fields, play hide and seek among birch trees, splash in lakes. Adults dig the soil, tend the plants, then sit together in the evenings with tea, perhaps with vodka, singing old songs beneath the stars. The dacha is freedom, as close as many will ever come to owning a piece of life that feels truly their own. Sports are another pillar of Soviet culture. From childhood, boys and girls are encouraged to join clubs, to run, to swim, to lift, to play soccer, hockey or volleyball. Physical strength is not just personal health, it is patriotism, proof of the vigour of the socialist citizen. Stadiums fill with cheering crowds, red flags waving as teams compete. Victories against Western teams are celebrated as triumphs of the entire system. Names of Soviet athletes, gymnasts, hockey players, weightlifters are spoken with pride across the land. In winter, frozen ponds and snowy streets turn into playgrounds. Children skate, play hockey with sticks and makeshift goals, ski across white fields. In summer, soccer balls are kicked across courtyards and crowds gather in parks for volleyball games. Music fills the evenings, whether in grand concert halls or humble apartments. Radios play patriotic songs, folk tunes, and carefully approved popular music. Families gather around, listening to melodies that are sometimes cheerful, sometimes deeply nostalgic. In homes, guitars are common. A circle of friends sing softly, voices blending into familiar songs about love, about the homeland, about distant journeys. Singing together creates warmth, connection, and memory. Official music is everywhere, but unofficial songs, bard songs, quiet ballads, travel from one guitar to another, shared among friends in whispers. They're not shouted, not broadcast, but remembered, passed down, treasured. New Year's Eve is the grandest of them all. Families decorate fir trees with glass ornaments and coloured lights. Ded Moroz, Grandfather Frost, and his granddaughter Snegurochka visit children, bringing small gifts. Tables groan with food, salads, fish, bread, pickles, and if possible caviar or champagne. At midnight, the chimes of the Kremlin clock ring out on radio and television, and glasses are raised in toasts to the coming year. May Day is a holiday of parades. Workers march through the streets carrying banners, slogans and red flags. Brass bands play, voices sing, leaders wave from balconies. The air fills with slogans of unity, strength and progress. It is both celebration and propaganda, joy and duty. Victory Day on May 9th is solemn and proud. The Great Patriotic War is remembered with parades, speeches, and flowers laid at monuments. Veterans wear their medals, tears glistening in their eyes as children thank them. Fireworks burst above the cities, lighting the night in remembrance and triumph. Smaller celebrations fill the year as well. Birthdays, weddings, name days. A table is always set, food arranged as best as possible, glasses filled for toasts. Friends and family gather, laughing, singing, telling stories. Even with shortages, even with hardship, joy is created. For many, the deepest escape is not in cinema or dachas, but in books. Every home has shelves of them, sometimes overflowing. Russian classics, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Pushkin, Soviet writers, Gorky, Mayakovsky, scientific works, poetry, children's tales. Libraries are crowded, books borrowed again and again. Reading is both education and refuge. A single novel can transport a worker from the grey walls of a factory to the rolling fields of old Russia, or to the stars with future cosmonauts. Yet even in leisure, the shadow of control lingers. Films, plays, books and songs are censored. Only those approved by the party are allowed to spread. Certain works disappear, names vanish from catalogues, artists fall silent. People know this, feel it, but often choose not to speak of it. Instead, they savour what is allowed, and sometimes, secretly, they pass around forbidden works, typed by hand, hidden in drawers. And so, joy exists, but it is joy shaped by boundaries. People learn to find happiness in small things, in a song, in a meal, in a child's laughter, in a day at the dacha, in the shimmer of snow beneath a winter sun. Leisure in the Soviet Union is not freedom, but it is survival of the soul. It is how people endure, how they find beauty in greyness, how they remind themselves that life, even under control, can still sparkle with music, laughter, and love. Congratulations. You've just woken up on a cold winter morning in the Soviet Union. The frost has crept across the windows overnight, etching delicate patterns of white lace upon the glass. You step out of bed, feet meeting the chill of a worn wooden floor, and the room smells faintly of coal smoke from the stove that barely managed to hold its heat through the night. Outside, the streets are already busy, though in a quiet, heavy way. Bundled figures move slowly through the snow, scarves wrapped tightly, each person clutching a bag or basket. They're headed for the same place you must go, the market, or rather, the shop with the long line. Because in this world, shopping is not a quick errand. It is an act of patience, of endurance, of quiet resignation. You step outside and join the stream of people moving toward the state-run food store. A long line already curls around the block. Men and women stand silently, breath puffing like little white clouds in the frozen air. Some stamp their feet, others huddle their children close. Everyone carries hope. Hope that when it's their turn, the shelves won't already be empty. The line is more than a line. It is a social ritual. Neighbours talk in low voices. Strangers sometimes share jokes or whispers about rumours. Perhaps today there will be oranges, perhaps butter, perhaps even sausage. No one ever knows. You might wait 2, 3, even 4 hours, only to step inside and find a single loaf of bread and a jar of pickles left. But you wait anyway, because in the Soviet Union, the act of waiting in line is as much a part of daily life as eating the food itself. Finally, after what feels like forever, you step inside the store. The room is plain, functional, lit by buzzing fluorescent lights. The shelves are sparsely filled, sometimes with just rows of the same item: pickled cabbage, canned fish, or a mountain of pale dry bread. Behind the counter, the shop assistant, dressed in a white apron that has long lost its brightness, looks tired but stern. People approach one by one, ration cards or cash ready in their hands. There are no brands, no colourful packages, no advertising. Just the basics, when available, and silence. You notice how carefully people examine their purchases. A piece of meat with too much bone. A loaf of bread that seems smaller than it should be. Every crumb matters. Every gram counts. But then, suddenly, there is a murmur in the line. A delivery truck has arrived. Word spreads like fire through dry grass. Apples. There are apples today. For a moment the air changes. Faces brighten, voices rise, and people shuffle eagerly forward. You too feel excitement. Because in this world, something as simple as a piece of fruit is not just food. It is treasure, luxury, memory of sweetness in a grey season. If you are lucky enough to get one, you will savour it slowly, slice by slice, perhaps even hide it in a cupboard to save for a special day. And yet, as you leave the store with your bread and maybe, just maybe, a handful of apples, you hear a whisper. 2 men speaking quietly near the corner. One glances over his shoulder, then leans closer. They talk of something not found on shelves. Coffee, real coffee, not the weak substitute. Foreign cigarettes, maybe even chocolate from abroad. This is the shadow side of life, the black market. It exists because the official stores rarely meet people's desires, but stepping into that world is dangerous. Buying foreign goods might draw suspicion. Someone might report you. And yet, the temptation is always there. At home, the food is spread on the small kitchen table. A loaf of bread, a bowl of cabbage soup reheated from yesterday, maybe potatoes boiled and salted. It is simple, filling, but plain. Meat is rare, sweets rarer. Families learn to stretch every ingredient to make do with little. Still, meals are more than eating. Around the table, stories are told. Children laugh. Someone pours tea into tall glasses held in metal holders, the steam rising, warming frozen fingers. Even when food is scarce, the ritual of sitting together softens the hardship. But then there are days when food transforms from survival to celebration. New Year's, the most beloved holiday, brings out the hidden treasures. Housewives plan for weeks, saving sugar, trading favours, standing in lines at dawn just for one special ingredient. On that night, tables glow with salads piled high, pickled fish, sliced sausage, and if fortune smiles, caviar or a cake decorated with cream. Children wait for Dead Moroz, the Soviet Father Frost, to bring presents. Adults toast with vodka, laughter filling the cramped apartment. For a few hours, the greyness of life fades, replaced by colour, warmth, and the illusion of abundance. Because in the Soviet Union, a feast is not just a meal, it is a victory. A reminder that joy can be created even from scarcity. So much of daily life in the Soviet Union is about balance, between what you have and what you need, between the official and the unofficial, between scarcity and celebration. Food is never taken for granted. A loaf of bread can mean hours of waiting. A jar of jam might be saved for months. And when something special does appear, it is remembered forever. Ask someone who lived through it, and they may still recall decades later the taste of their first banana, their first sip of Coca-Cola, their first chocolate bar. As the day winds down, you sit once more by the stove. The snow outside glows faintly in the moonlight. The world is still, silent, and the cupboard is nearly bare again. Tomorrow will bring another line, another weight, another small hope. But tonight, there is tea, bread, maybe a slice of apple, and that is enough to carry you into the next day. This time you're not an adult, waiting in a long line for bread. Number. You're a child, opening your eyes in a small crowded apartment somewhere in Moscow, Kiev, Leningrad, or maybe in a faraway industrial town built around a factory. The room smells faintly of boiled potatoes from last night's dinner. On the shelf sits a row of toys, simple, sturdy things. A wooden train, a cloth doll, maybe a metal tin car. Nothing flashy, nothing foreign. But they are loved all the same. Your day is about to begin. The morning routine. The kitchen is already busy. Mama moves quickly, packing a small breakfast. Usually black bread with a smear of butter. Maybe tea with a little sugar if you're lucky. Milk is poured into a cup. Cereal as you might imagine it elsewhere doesn't exist here. Instead, children often eat kasha, a warm porridge of buckwheat or semolina. Papa is already dressed in his work clothes, ready to head to the factory or office. He adjusts his cap, kisses your head, and reminds you to behave at school. There's no rush of television cartoons or flashy advertisements in the background. Instead, the family prepares quietly, following the rhythm of necessity. Life is not about choices, it is about routine. Wrapped tightly in your scarf and coat, you step outside. Winter seems endless. Snow piles high on the sidewalks. Children walk in groups, stamping their boots, cheeks flushed from the cold. The school is not far. Most children walk, some even without parents. The streets are filled with the chatter of young voices, laughter mixing with the crunch of snow. On the way, you notice posters glued to the walls, bright red banners, portraits of Lenin or workers holding hammers and wheat sheaves. Even as a child, the message seeps into your mind. The state is everywhere, watching, teaching. The school building is plain but sturdy, painted in dull tones. Inside, the air smells of chalk, paper, and damp winter coats hung along the corridor. The classroom is orderly. Rows of wooden desks face a blackboard. On the wall hangs a portrait of Lenin or Marx, reminding children of the ideals they are expected to grow into. Teachers are strict, voices firm, discipline expected. Children stand when answering questions. Hands must be clean, notebooks neat. Mistakes are not laughed at but corrected with seriousness. The purpose of school is not only learning, it is shaping children into future workers, soldiers, and citizens of the Soviet Union. You begin with reading, mathematics, writing, then history, told through the lens of heroes, revolutions, and the great struggle of the people. Geography lessons emphasize the vastness of your own land, stretching from the Baltic to the Pacific, a world within itself. Foreign lands are mentioned, but always with caution, often painted as dangerous or decadent. At a certain age, you are given something very important, a red scarf. Becoming a member of the Young Pioneers is a proud moment. You tie the bright cloth around your neck and suddenly feel part of something bigger. The scarf is not just cloth, it is identity, belonging, duty. The pioneers are the Soviet version of scouting, but with more politics woven in. You learn songs about the motherland, attend parades, and help with small community projects like cleaning the schoolyard or planting trees. It is meant to instill discipline, patriotism, and loyalty. Every child wants to be a pioneer. To refuse would be unthinkable. But even in this structured world, children find ways to play. After school, the courtyard fills with laughter. Boys kick a worn leather ball, pretending to be great footballers. Girls jump rope or play clapping games. Sometimes a rusty sled or pair of skates appears, and children take turns sliding down icy hills, shrieking with joy. Toys are few, but imagination is endless. A stick becomes a sword, a pile of snow becomes a fortress. When night falls, parents call from windows, their voices echoing through the yard. Inside, games continue. Families play checkers or dominoes. Children draw with stubby pencils or cut pictures from old magazines. There is no flood of television shows, no flashing screens, just creativity, shared time, and the warmth of being together. And yet, beneath the surface, children dream. They dream of sweets, of faraway lands, of shiny things whispered about but rarely seen. A chocolate bar, a banana, a foreign toy, all become symbols of wonder, glimpses of another life. Some dream of becoming cosmonauts, inspired by Yuri Gagarin, the hero who reached the stars. Posters of rockets decorate classrooms, and space exploration fills lessons with pride. Others dream of being soldiers, athletes, or engineers. Always the dreams are tied to serving the motherland, but sometimes, quietly, secretly, a child may dream differently. To travel, to see Paris or New York, to taste food without standing in line, to live a life freer, brighter, bigger. Such dreams are whispered only at night, never aloud. As evening falls, homework is done by the light of a small desk lamp. Parents remind children to be diligent, to study well. Education is the path to opportunity. The radio hums softly with news or patriotic songs. Television, if the family's lucky enough to own one, shows only a few programs. Cultural performances, speeches, approved films. Dinner is simple: soup, bread, perhaps a small piece of meat if it was found at the store. Children are told to eat everything, never to waste. Leftovers are rare. Bedtime comes early. Children slip beneath heavy blankets, the cold kept at bay by layers of quilts. Outside, the city grows quiet. Snow continues to fall, covering the grey buildings in a soft white silence. And as you close your eyes, you think of tomorrow, of school, of play, of waiting for something brighter just beyond the horizon. Childhood in the Soviet Union is strict, disciplined, often scarce, but still filled with the simple joys of laughter, friendship, and dreams. This time, you're no longer a child in school. You're an adult in the Soviet Union of the 1970s, and today, like every day, you must go to work. The alarm clock rattles on the nightstand, its sharp sound filling the small apartment. Outside, the streets are still dark, a dim grey glow just beginning to touch the snowy rooftops. You rise quickly, dress in your plain but sturdy clothes, and eat a small breakfast. Black bread with cheese, perhaps tea if sugar was available. Work is not just a duty here. It is identity, survival, and pride. Every man and woman is expected to contribute to the building of socialism. And the heart of this contribution lies in the factory. Stepping outside, the cold stings your face. A wave of workers floods the streets, men in heavy coats, women wrapped in scarves, all hurrying in the same direction. Trams rattle past, filled to bursting. Smoke rises from chimneys across the horizon, the lifeblood of industry pumping into the grey morning sky. You arrive at the gates of the factory. It is massive. Walls of brick and concrete, smokestacks towering above. The building is both intimidating and impressive, a fortress of labour. Red banners flutter across the entrance. Work is a matter of honour, glory, courage, and heroism. Inside, the sound hits you at once. The roar of machines, the clatter of tools, the shouting of voices over the noise. The smell of oil, metal, and sweat fills the air. This is the heartbeat of the Soviet Union. Steel being forged, tractors assembled, tanks prepared, or textiles woven. The day begins with the short meeting. The foreman reminds the workers of the plan, the quotas, the targets set by the party. Numbers are written on chalkboards, goals to be achieved by the end of the shift, and then the labour begins. Sleep now. Let yourself sink deeper into that perfect relaxation. Your eyelids are heavy. So heavy it would take too much effort to open them now. Your limbs feel pleasantly weighted, impossible to move even if you wanted to, which you don't. You just want to drift all the way down into deep, restful sleep. That's it. Just let go completely. The day is done. The work is finished. Nothing more required of you now except to rest, to renew, to dream perhaps of different possibilities, different worlds. But for now, just sleep deep and peaceful, easy and calm. Sleep now. Sleep well. Drifting deeper with each breath down and down into perfect, complete rest.